In and out of school literacy practices. Part 1. Observations in the classroom. Here's the classroom. When students come in the morning, they automatically are exposed to a new set of text that is displayed on the smartboard. The classroom is decorated with students' work, and there are also posters, word walls, and bulletin boards. In the back of the room is the classroom library that stores around a few hundred books. The library is arranged by fiction books on the right side and nonfiction books on the left. Then it is further separated into genre. Now we will look at observations in the Acklen Art Museum. For my out-of-school literacy practice, I went to the Acklen Art Museum to learn about the literacy of art. The museum has many galleries that are separated by themes. The type of art that are available at the museum are sculptures, pottery, painting, drawings, and artifacts. For each gallery, there are text descriptions about the overall theme and history. In some galleries, there is a pamphlet that explains a particular art piece and the context that it is in. The museum attracted a diverse group of people, including the elderly, young children, students of all ages, and adults. Part 2. Participation in the classroom. To understand the literacy practice involved in the classroom, I participated in 2 practices. 1. Observing several whole class read-alouds, and 2. Exploring the child's understanding during their silent reading. During the read-alouds, the teacher does most of the talking, but we encourage the students by asking questions about the text. For silent readings, student chooses a book from their book box, in which the teacher has prepared for the students. In these book boxes are a variety of books that match the student's reading level. During silent reading, I went around and asked children to read me a few pages from the book or asked them about their story. Participation in the museum. To understand the literacy practice in art, I participated in 3 different activities that the Acklen Museum offered. The first one was called Drawing in the Gallery, where I drew this foam model soldier. The next activity I participated in was Music in the Gallery, where I listened to different students perform. The last thing I did was explore the galleries that the museum had on exhibit, and try to understand the different pieces of art. For this project, I will mainly focus on the physical art, but it was also nice to experience the art in music form. Part 3. Analysis of literacy in class versus museum. Although the communities are different, literacy in the classroom and in the art museum have many similarities. We will first examine the text in these 2 practices. In the classroom, students are mostly reading texts that deal with the subjects they are learning or stories that are appropriate to their reading level. Students will write about what they have read or create their own stories. The main text that is read in the Acklen Art Museum is the description of the artwork, but the main focus should be the artwork itself. To emphasize the art, there are some pieces that have very little text. At the Acklen, instead of writing text, people draw or sketch their own artwork and use what they see to help them with their projects. In both environments, code breaking is involved. Code breaking in these environments are very similar. The person will first break it down, whether it is a word or a piece of artwork. For a word, a person can break it down phonemically, or try to break it down into smaller words. For artwork, a person can break it down by first looking at a certain part of a picture. For instance, in this picture, looking at the expression of 1 minute at a time. If this does not work, a person may try to look for context clues. So for a student that is reading, he or she might want to read the whole sentence. For artwork, using the same piece as an example, a person can look at the picture as a whole, or find descriptions of the painting and tie the clues together. At the end, if none of these code-breaking tactics work, the person can always ask someone who is more knowledgeable, such as a teacher or someone who works at the museum. Being fluent in a literacy community means being able to comprehend and participate, such as comprehending the meaning behind an artwork and expressing one's ideas of it, or comprehending the story of a book and being able to discuss its context. But art can be more open-ended than reading in most cases. Since literacy done in the classroom is mostly reading, most of the material students read at an elementary level do not have a lot of open-ended interpretations. But in art, there are some pieces that do not have a correct way of comprehending. For instance, the Warhol exhibit in the Ackley Museum. People have hypothesized the meaning behind his pictures, but no one exactly knows the reasoning. No one can tell you if the way a person comprehends is right or wrong, and it is also acceptable for people to not be able to comprehend some artwork. When people do not comprehend, they are usually less engaged in what they are looking at, or they will not be able to explain about what they just read or saw. There are certain skills needed to be successful in these literacy communities. The skills that both communities need are patience, critical thinking, and connecting with the text or artwork. Patience is needed to read a book and find out what happens, and it is also needed to read the description of the artwork and try to see what the artists are trying to portray. Critical thinking is needed in a classroom to think about how it connects to their lives and why the story may be important, while critical thinking in an art exhibit is needed to explore the reasons and significant meaning of the artwork. Other skills needed for literacy in the classroom include being able to read independently and understanding how to interpret illustrations. There is a major difference in the type of prior knowledge necessary in order to be involved in these different literacy practices. In a classroom, students must understand the language, which includes grammar, vocabulary, and concepts and conventions of print like reading from left to right. In literacy practice of art, when reading the description of the artwork, they must also have prior knowledge of those in the classroom, but in addition, they must also have some history knowledge since artwork and history are closely linked. Certain historical periods have certain style and also display certain meanings. The most important thing that needs to be taught for a successful literacy learner in these two communities is being able to see the holistic meaning. There are other things that need to be taught in a classroom, such as how to read and how to code break. In the art community, they need to be taught how to approach a piece of artwork and how to connect it to themselves or the world. But these should be taught gradually, so they can slowly be exposed to different types of text or art in order for a person to feel comfortable with these types of literacy. Connections to class and for future teaching. Both communities use different approaches to educate people. In the classroom, the teacher integrates many aspects of the bottom-up approach in the whole language model depending on the lesson. As you can see in the students' work on the walls, they worked on consonant clutters and a series of rhyming words. These are evidence of the bottom-up theory, since the teacher is trying to teach them words from small building blocks. Her read aloud shows aspects of the whole language model because she values all learners, gets students to form hypotheses in the book, and often uses assessments to inform her teachings. These approaches are very different than what can be seen in the museum. Approaches that best describe this literacy community are the transactional theory and the reader-response model. As people discuss the art, everyone brings in a unique way of perceiving the art. This demonstrates the transactional theory. When people try to connect what they see to other art pieces, their lives, or even to the world, they show aspects of the reader-response model. After experiencing these two literacy communities, it is important for teachers to understand that the different literacy communities enable different approaches in teaching, which will also help broaden the child's learning. Having different ways of learning will also keep the children engaged, and maybe even come upon a type of literacy that students really enjoy. And when students are doing things they enjoy, they are motivated to excel. The most important thing to take away is that our role as teachers are huge. Without help from other people, whether they are teachers or people that are knowledgeable in a certain topic, people that are new to a literacy community will get lost, so they need our aid in order to be successful students.